And now Amy Quinn. Amy Quinn. Ah, you're there. How are you? Oops, no. Unmute yourself, Amy.
Okay, Maureen, I'm gonna a little bit apologize because I told Heather to keep our son out until 7, thinking that was a safe bet.
Yeah.
It is not. That has not turned out to be my safe bet of today. So just FYI, if a redhead starts running through, I apologize.
Okay. Was that someone just there? I heard. Is there somebody talking in the background? Just trying to figure that out. Okay. So Amy, let's see.
Thanks for doing this, Maureen.
I have so many questions for you.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Okay. I think the most important ones arose over the audit. Let's just, because we are pressed for time. So I might as well get the rent control draft ordinance out of the way, the first one out of the way. So have you read it? Have you formed an opinion on it?
I haven't read it, Maureen, and it may have been sent to the city in the last week or so, and I just haven't gotten through it. I'm happy to review it. I'm happy. I heard you say, I think to Eileen, that it was up on your website, so I'll take a look. The city has started a study to figure out if we can do a rent stabilization. And the reason we started with this study is, I don't know if you're following what's happening in Montclair. So Montclair passed a rent stabilization ordinance via their council, and then it was put on a referendum and voted down. And so now they're currently dealing with the consequences of that. And so I think we felt, let's have a study. Beth, who you likely heard during the affordable housing ordinances that we passed in April, she is going to conduct the study. She's going to tell us and the public.
Independent consultant.
She is. She's the independent consultant. She'll come, I'm guessing, to a workshop session, tell us the good, the bad, and we'll make a decision from there. So unfortunately, I can't comment on the ordinance that you're describing, but I think my daytime job is for a nonprofit. We do a lot of landlord-tenant. I am as concerned as you about the next epidemic, which I believe will be related to landlord-tenant, with everybody out of work and not able to pay their bills. That is something that my day job and I are bracing for. Thankfully, and again, I'm going to apologize because they came in at 7 thinking that I was going to be,
that's okay.
I was going to be done. So, so my day job is landlord-tenant stuff. So.
I just want to ask you a question on that, though, because you said that you wouldn't be able to introduce the ordinance to Beth as your consultant. You wouldn't ask her.
No. I'm not saying we can't introduce. I'm saying I haven't read the ordinance, Maureen. Right. I'm happy to pass it to Beth. I'm happy if you don't mind emailing it to me after this podcast. I am on happy.
The Facebook page too. You just clicked on it.
And the Facebook page is Asbury Radio?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so I am happy to forward that on to Beth for her to take a look.
Okay.
No problem with that at all.
What about evictions too? While we're on this, with the rent control and the problems with COVID coming up, has the city got a plan for what's going to happen with the evictions once the moratorium runs out?
Yeah, so I think we're going to put a big chunk of money aside from the CARES Act to help people pay their rent. That's something the city is, feels pretty passionate about. And I think evictions, I think we're all, not just putting my city hat on, but also my daytime job hat on, I think we're all really worried about evictions. So the state has passed a moratorium. And that means that you could file a summons and complaint to evict someone for, say, for example, non-payment of rent. However, nobody can be locked out at this time. So
but does that run out in October though?
No, I believe it was extended to the end of November.
End of November, okay, thank you.
But yes, we are putting aside CARES Act money to work with an organization to help people with their back rent. No question. Listen, this
do you know the amount on that?
No, I don't think we've set an amount. I'm going to certainly say I would, if I had to guess, it's going to, you know, be a chunk, maybe 100,000, you know, as much as we can possibly, you know, you can only use the CARE Act's money on certain things. So, you know, rent is probably number one. Trying to help businesses is number two. Getting people masked and ready. You know this as much as I do, Maureen. There may or may not be a second wave, and so we want to make sure that we're prepared for that once everybody goes back indoors with masks. Monday we're doing, if I can just do, we're giving out free masks at Springwood Ave Park to anyone and everyone who needs one. So, you know, those are some of the things that we're using the CARES Act money on.
Okay. All right. Now the this audit, right? The recommendations from the auditor. One of the things that he brought up was the city issued bond anticipation notes for projects that it did not undertake. Now I was wondering, did we pay the bond attorneys to do work on that? Because we would be out that money. The city has issued debt that was not utilized for its intended purpose. It is recommended that the city methodically plan and the timing and issuing of bonds and notes only for projects to be undertaken. So would you comment on whether or not the bond attorney fees the city already paid for on that?
So I'm not totally sure I understand the question. So I'm gonna answer it to, you know, to the best of my ability. It's my understanding that this, under a previous city manager, that the city bonded for things, for example, the North End Boardwalk. There was a period of time we weren't sure that we were going to be paying for the North End Boardwalk, or iStar was going to pay for the North End Boardwalk.
Yes, that's right.
And I think those, right, I think those funds, you know, that was something that we wanted to have a plan B for. I also, when you say paying for our bond attorney, I mean, we have a bond attorney, and as far as I know, we pay those bills. I've not been told that we are not currently paying our bond attorney.
No, the question was, if we did not use the notes, which obviously we should or shouldn't have gone through, because they say that the cure for this, according to the auditor, is you curtail your borrowing to only issue debt for projects that will be undertaken. Was there a cost involved to the city? And the cost in this would be, I would imagine, the bond attorney's fees, which are usually very steep.
Maureen, I'm not sure. It's certainly something I can
So
look at. It's a little, yeah, it's a, that would be something I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
No, that's good. Yeah, no, I don't want you to. That would be very good. Okay, so this one is the city lacks a disaster recovery plan, and this is pretty startling, you know, because we are a peninsula here, open to flooding.
So this.
Oh, that's the child. It's all right.
Yeah, no, there is absolutely a child running around here right now.
That's
no question, no question about it.
I'm sure everyone can adjust.
I apologize. I thought I thought giving it till 7 was gonna be good.
Sure. So that's very worrying. The corrective action, the city will be appropriating funds in the next budget to develop a disaster recovery plan. The city will also develop a training program for yearly training on all employees in the city. Of course, you know, there are documents filed with the city. We always have to put down their social security numbers, and sometimes you have to give financial information to the city. So that's very worrying that there is not a cyber function either from a security standpoint. will your plan include a hot site?
Will our plan include a what?
A hot site, which is an off-site disaster recovery place where you have the same software files and stuff, and files for suitable with your software in another site that you can move to in the case of an emergency, like you were hacked or whatever, and continue on with your operations for the city.
I can certainly check in with our IT guy. I will tell you, I mean, when we got elected back in 13 and 14, there wasn't even a generator for City Hall to keep it running. So
yeah,
do you remember, right?
I appreciate that. You know, I had to sit in Terry Riddy's office all day to get him to give me the plan for our disaster. And I went through the whole thing. There was not one evacuation instruction, which was really startling. And of course, Chief Ketty eventually became responsible for that plan. So the fire chief. So.
Sorry, Maureen. So yeah, listen, I will talk to we have a full-time IT director, and I will, we'll certainly make sure that we have a backup system to, our software if we don't already. I'm under the impression we do, but it's certainly something that
off-site is the most important.
Off-site's the most important. Okay, no problem.
Okay, and there was the no bid, which was a worrying thing on this report. And again, these are the recommendations from the auditor. There was a no bid contract, and I understand now that was not for the fire truck that was purchased for over $400,000, but possibly a pickup truck that was going to be used.
No, I think that was a fire truck. I think that might have been an error. That in what was previously said was a pickup truck. Under a previous council, did not know. Under a previous city manager, the fire department did buy and I'm going to be wrong on this number, Maureen, but I'm going to say approximately a $400,000 fire truck.
Yes, it's $647,000.
And
$236, so that's not $647,000, and that was June of 2019.
Yeah, no, that was inappropriate, and under Donna Vieira, we don't believe that that'll happen again.
But this was under Michael Capabianco.
Correct.
Right. How in the world could that have happened? Who was actually overseeing him? The city manager.
So I think the council, as you know, kind of directs policy, but the city manager in a place like Asbury Park deals with the day-to-day. So he made decisions based on day-to-day operations. So the city manager made the decision to buy the fire truck. The council did not, right? There
without a bid. That's the problem. It's not that they bought it; it's that they bought it without a bid.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you on that, Maureen. That was very disappointing. Yeah, very disappointing.
So I hope that there are some controls on this city manager, because we don't want to see the same thing happen again. There has to be oversight. It can't be just on their own.
Agreed.
Agreed. Good. What time do we have? Oh, we have 9 minutes. If I forgot your son's name again. I'm sorry.
My son, his name's Jensen.
Jensen, thank you.
Jensen,
thank you.
Yep, Jensen Quinn. His son, his name is my wife's last name. So we combined.
Right. And you think that I draw a blank when I'm trying to remember his name, her name, right? But Jensen, apologies.
That's okay.
Doesn't it always wear a smile on a Jensen? No, oh, a Jensen swimsuit.
Jensen Quinn. Jensen Quinn.
Okay. Yes.
Yep. And I know I heard you talking with Eileen about you were bringing me back to Kingsley Deli 20 years ago.
Deli days, and Rita still tells me how you were always doing your studying in there.
I was studying for law school. Yeah, I was studying for law school, right. And I'm not sure she was supposed to, but she had that cat. Remember, she had that cat in the deli that used. Yes, Kingsley. Yeah. So
Kingsley Deli.
Rita was one of the very first people, if not the first people. And do you remember a guy named Ben Schneider?
Oh,
Ben
yes,
was,
Ben, yes, yes.
Ben was the second person
Vicky.
that I used to sit in the deli and study for law school, and her cat would be all around and she'd, make me a BLT or something. Those were fun times.
I hope you saw my 2-act comedy, because it all takes place in the deli.
Too funny. No, listen, that was, if you wanted to know anything about Asbury Park, you didn't go to any meeting then. You went to Rita's Deli.
That's right. It was the nerve center. Okay, so I can't hear you. All right, let me ask you about your platform, because I don't want to run out of time before we get to that.
So listen, some of the things we passed, you've brought up, everybody's brought up, in April, we passed the affordable housing ordinances, 8 or 9 of them. We spent a lot of time focusing on the North End Boardwalk. I'm going to thank SAW for, their work on that. That is a pretty green boardwalk with gender neutral bathrooms, and expanded it from what was going to be about, 12 feet to a much bigger boardwalk. I think, what we're kind of focusing on.
Who paid for the boardwalk? I meant to ask.
iStar did pay for that boardwalk. iStar ended up paying for that boardwalk.
And the bathrooms?
iStar as well. iStar paid for the bathrooms in the boardwalk, and also the there's I'm gonna say this word wrong, but for lack of a better word, rain gardens throughout it that are recycling. Last time I checked, I believe it was over 100 gallons of water we're going to be going through those rain gardens. So you remember the 2002 plan, Maureen, right? Which called for a much smaller boardwalk. It also called for pipes going into Deal Lake, which was, the runoff was going to go into Deal Lake. I mean, it called for, the plan continues to call for a number of things that, that aren't, that people are unhappy with, to put it mildly. And so that boardwalk we have now, I think it's something we're really proud of. But for the future, listen, I think the first thing we're trying to do is really focus on COVID. We've obviously done the free asymptomatic testing. We were one of the first towns to do that. And I have to give credit to Yvonne and Eileen for hounding the freeholders for getting free asymptomatic testing in Asbury Park. We've also done initiatives with transportation to make sure you can get to the testing in Asbury Park. The mass, giving out this mass giveaway we're doing, and then taking this CARES money to use to ensure that, people's rent gets paid that need to get paid, or that businesses that we can, hopefully try to help our small businesses in Asbury Park. I say it all the time that, these are mom and pop businesses. This is not, Walmart and Target. This is, Kathy Kelly and Bianca, and we have a great business committee. I know that was mentioned a little earlier, and that business committee's really been hosting all the grants that have been coming out. So there's been a number of grants for businesses. We've had Tommy Arnone on, we've had Bingo Paul on, we've had a number of people on to go over the grants that are available to businesses. But if we can use some of this CARES Act for businesses, that's something we're gonna try to prioritize. And what I think is also getting lost in this mix is
but you will use it for the individuals who maybe
right. So rent is our #1 priority. We'd also like to use some for businesses, and we'd also like to use some for food insecurity. People right now are not. I don't know if you've seen these pictures on the news of these lines for fulfill, and so we're gonna we're certainly gonna try to do something for food as well with this bit of CARES money. So I think the one thing is to try to get people through this pandemic. And so far, I think we've done a pretty good job. We limited people on the beach to about 8,000. And during a busy season, we can get up to 16 or 17,000 on our beach. And getting everybody through the pandemic. I think the other thing we really, are continuously trying to do, the affordable housing ordinances is one of them, is ensuring, kind of equity and making sure that people who want to stay here can stay here, which is why I am really interested in reading your rent stabilization ordinance and see if that works and pass it along to Beth. So if we are going to pass something, we pass something that's not going to later, somehow get repealed and cause delays. And look, fiscally, we went through a hard time. We lost money in beach revenue. We lost money in parking. You know, we suspended parking for probably 8 weeks during the pandemic, just so people didn't feel like they had to move their car, or they were going to be touching you know, we didn't want people touching the meters, right? Because back then we weren't really sure, you know, what this was about. So I think it's ensuring that Asbury has some sort of, you know, continued fiscal responsibility. We were able actually this year to lower from the city side, lower taxes, I believe $30 per residential unit. So, you know, I think those are kind of the things we're going to focus on and over the next year, and open for feedback. I don't know why this a little bit got lost in the mix. And I think you were on the council meeting where I talked about the Human Relations Committee and the Equity Committee. You know, we met with,
I was on that call.
Yeah, and listen, we had a lot of trouble drilling down the vision for the HRC because it was so broad. So, you know, I talked about this at the council meeting.
Right.
You know, you had people like Gil Caldwell who really wanted to see a lecture series. And then you had, you know, other people who wanted to see it focusing on housing or reentry or police, you know, what's happening in, you know, police brutality. And so this is what I'm going to say. The HRC is no question, absolutely on the table. The vision for that, you know, we did a survey to try to get the vision, and the survey was all over the place, Maureen.
Yes,
so
I did take notes on that.
Yeah, the survey, it was all over the place. So what I'm saying to you is the equity
like you started it 18 months ago. Right?
We started it probably about a year. So I'm going to say I thought I met with Gil Caldwell in January. Gil Caldwell was the first person I met with to talk about it, and I believe that was January 2019.
Human relations.
Yeah, January of 2019 was my first meeting with Gil Caldwell to go over what his vision.
Yeah, so it's
no, it's over a year, 2019. So it would be about yeah. So I think that was our first conversation, and then we went to places like Metuchen. We sat in on Red Banks, and the troubling part of that was Red Bank. Yeah, it was. Listen, the HRC is on the table. I think we just need to kind of drill down that vision and maybe the public has.
This was all prior to George Floyd.
This was all prior to George Floyd, but here's
what I thought you were working on was more recent. Was, you know, the Black Lives Matter, the desire to have a civilian review board on the police performance. That's what the Black community communicated to me, and so it was very shocking that it came up as this much broader, you know, human relations kind of thing. There's much more urgency I'm hearing from the West Side than that sort of thing. Quality of life.
Yeah. So I think we're a little bit on the same page with that. The Equity Committee is about progressive police policies that were back in January, when I was meeting with people about doing a human relations committee, a number of people during that, I think Pastor Van Zandt was one of them, talked about, you know, police reform and progressive policing policies. And so what, you know, me and Yvonne did was took, you know, the Obama pledge and expanded it a little bit, and then made that committee kind of focus on reviewing police policies and then making recommendations from policing to hiring practices. And so, you know, that's what we're focusing on now. But and I want to be really clear on this. That is our first step. The next step may be an HRC, likely will be an HRC. The vision of the Human Relations Commission is a little bit of something that Yvonne and I struggled on, because from the survey to the community response to it was extraordinarily broad, and I'm going to be perfectly honest.
The survey really didn't sound to me like you know, we're seeing these instances of police brutality, and we want to have a body to review these things and see what's terribly wrong right now, and make sure that, you know, we don't have an issue here in Asbury Park. It did not come across that way to me. It sounded like, you know, quality of life issues. Do we need a body, and would you be interested in in being on the board or something. It was that kind
So
of
yeah, no, I
survey
don't think our
request.
vision was at all a quality of life committee.
Because I
think
remember saying, yes, some sort of a human relations would be nice. It didn't seem to have that sense of urgency to me at all. So I'm not surprised is what I'm saying that you.
Okay.
You didn't,
well, maybe you can help
up
us
with
draft a better
reform.
survey so we can kind of drill down, because
how much are you paying these days?
It wasn't, I see what you're saying, but it was never meant to be it wasn't, quite frankly, Maureen, it was meant to be a human rights commission more than a human relations, which are kind of two different things. And I
don't hear police reform in there, I guess.
Right, which well, I will tell you that people responded to that survey with wanting police reform to be a priority, and wanting reentry to be a priority, wanting affordable housing to be a priority. I mean, there was the response to that survey, tons, there was, I can certainly send it to you, but the responses ranged anywhere from vote Trump to reentry. It was just hard to get.
Where did the equity come in there?
So the equity
connection.
Sure. So we had been talking with Metuchen and Highland Park. Yes. They are two places that have both a human rights commission, and they had both recently started an equity committee. And I have to say,
what did they mean by it?
Well, hold on one second. So these are conversations that I've been having with Derek Minow from Trinity and Pam Lamberton from the Dialogue Group about what the vision of either the HRC or the Equity Committee was. And both Metuchen and Highland Park felt like their Equity Committee was something that resulted in potentially passing progressive policies, whereas they both viewed their HRC as more of a, and I'm not going to use the right words on this, but more of a kumbaya kind of, let's get together for dinner, a little similar to what you're describing as well, like not something that resulted in a lot of progressive policies. So we took both of their Equity Committee, kind of looked at what their equity committees were doing, and then tailored it a little bit to Asbury Park.
I still don't understand the word equity. How would you define that, in its relationship to police reform?
So the equity committee is about reviewing and proposing progressive police policies. You're saying you don't think the word equity should be part of that, should be the name of that committee?
It doesn't seem like it was intended ever. An equity is like a stakeholder, right? Let's talk about, chairs.
Right.
Equity, what is that? It doesn't.
Well, I will say
brutality or singling out a particular generation and gender and color of people, which is what the people want to know about. They want to know that we're on this.
Right. We can certainly look at the name of that committee. I think we kind of took Metuchen and Highland Parks and how they named it. And
Metuchen and Highland, I've lived in the area. I went to New Brunswick, and believe me, they did not have a situation close to what we have here. Okay. I mean, we had a reporter, on staff at the Asbury Park Press, can he hear what I'm saying? I mean, I can't repeat it in front of Jensen, what this cop said to this reporter. Right. You are he is the problem. Well, what does he mean by that? Should we run out and get our brown shirts tomorrow? I mean, you don't want, reporters. What does that mean? You don't want, people of the Fourth Estate to be checking on what the police are doing? That's a very serious, and I don't think that the city has behaved like we would have expected them to after the man was confirmed to have a credential on, which said that he was a working journalist for the paper of record for this town, this county. That's unspeakable. And I don't think have you apologized yet? Not even an apology. And I imagine that the answer is going to come back that that's because this is a possible lawsuit, which of course it is without a doubt, and it probably didn't need to get to that. Sorry, it's very hard to be objective on this from this seat.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, because more and more of the government in Asbury Park is being left out of the public eye. And it's very hard to defend.
I mean, what I'm going to say to you, Maureen, is that we have 19 committees, commissions, and boards. I think me, Yvonne, Eileen, and John, you know, take anybody's call, respond to any text, respond to any email.
But this committee, equity committee, would not be open to the public.
Well,
Am I
of
right?
course, what are you talking about? Of course, it would be open to the public.
You read your resolution, it says that those meetings would not be held in public because
I believe it says when sensitive material, if somebody wants to speak to the equity committee without the public, I think, you know, we were looking to honor that. That wasn't the city that said. Okay.
That's not how it's written.
Okay.
No. And it says that you would then produce a report in 120 days. I mean, there's an urgency to this issue that the city seems to be tone deaf about.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, didn't we get to the platform? I thought we did the platform.
I think we
Yes,
did, and
we
I think we're at
yeah.
about 30 minutes. If my math is right, we're at about 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we really do have to end it, but I did have a lot more for you, but I'll be getting to you on that. But I think it was very good from a candidate's standpoint. We really got to your platform, and I'm happy we did.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Congratulations on all you've been doing.